Ever noticed how some people earn more than they ever have in their life, yet still feel like they're just one unexpected expense away from stress? That's exactly this guy. This guy is not reckless. This guy is not ignorant about money. In fact, this guy is doing better than before. A few years ago, this guy was earning less, constantly checking his wallet, delaying purchases, and carefully planning every expense. Back then, life felt tight, but at least the situation was clear. Now, this guy earns more, has a more stable career, and has improved his standard of living. On the surface, this guy looks like he has progressed, but internally, this guy still carries the same feeling, the feeling of being broke. The interesting thing is that this guy didn't expect this outcome. He genuinely believed that increasing his income would solve his financial stress. So this guy focused on earning more. He worked harder, improved his skills, took opportunities seriously, and eventually increased his salary. For a moment, this guy felt like he had finally reached the point where everything would start to make sense financially. But instead of relief, he experienced something unexpected. His expenses started to grow along with his income. This guy didn't make a single big decision that caused this shift. There was no one moment where everything changed. Instead, this guy made a series of small decisions that seemed completely reasonable at the time. When his income increased, this guy moved into a slightly better living space because he wanted more comfort. This guy started ordering food more frequently because he was busy and didn't want to spend time cooking. This guy upgraded his phone, his subscriptions, and his daily lifestyle habits, each one justified by convenience, efficiency, or reward. Individually, none of these choices were problematic. But this guy never stopped to evaluate them collectively. And that's where the issue began. Over time, these small upgrades reshaped this guy's financial baseline. What used to feel like a luxury slowly became normal. What used to feel optional started to feel necessary. This guy adjusted his expectations without realizing it. Now, the life he is living today feels like the minimum acceptable standard, even though it is significantly more expensive than his past lifestyle. This guy didn't just increase his income, and he increased his cost of living at the same time. And because of that, the gap between income and expenses did not grow meaningfully. That gap is important because it determines whether this guy is actually building wealth or just maintaining balance. In this guy's case, the gap remains small, so even though the numbers are higher, the financial feeling remains the same. This guy still checks his bank account before making purchases. This guy still hesitates when spending on non-essential items. This guy still feels a subtle pressure when unexpected expenses appear. The income is higher, but the sense of financial freedom hasn't improved much. One of the biggest patterns in this guy's behavior is how he treats raises. Whenever this guy gets an increase in income, he views it as an opportunity to improve his lifestyle immediately. This guy doesn't delay gratification. Instead, he upgrades quickly. A better apartment, more frequent dining out, additional subscriptions, improved convenience in daily life. Each raise translates into a new level of spending rather than a new level of saving. This guy rarely assigns a clear purpose to the extra income. There is no structured plan like allocating a portion to savings, investments, or long-term goals before adjusting expenses. Without that structure, the extra income naturally flows into lifestyle improvements. This guy doesn't feel like he is overspending because everything he spends on feels justified. And in isolation, each decision is reasonable. But the problem is not individual decisions. The problem is the overall pattern. This guy is operating on a cycle: earn more, spend more, adjust, repeat. Well, what this guy hasn't built yet is a system that forces a different outcome. A system where income increases automatically lead to increased savings, not just increased spending. Without such a system, income growth and expense growth remain closely tied, which prevents any real financial progress. Another factor influencing this guy is the psychology of reward. When income increases, this guy feels a sense of achievement. That feeling creates an internal justification to enjoy the money. So, this guy rewards himself with upgrades. While rewarding oneself is not inherently bad, the timing and frequency of those rewards matter. This guy tends to reward immediately and repeatedly, rather than strategically. As a result, every financial improvement is quickly absorbed into lifestyle inflation. There's also a comparison effect at play. Now, this guy observes others around him who are living similar or slightly upgraded lifestyles without consciously realizing it. This guy aligns his own lifestyle with what he perceives as normal among his peers. This creates subtle pressure to maintain or match that standard. So when others upgrade, this guy feels encouraged to do the same. This creates a collective upward movement in spending habits, making it even harder for this guy to maintain financial discipline. Another important observation is that this guy's fixed expenses have increased significantly. Rent, utilities, transportation, subscriptions, and recurring commitments now take up a larger portion of his income than before. These are not easily adjustable in the short term, which means this guy has less flexibility in managing his finances month to month. Because of this, and even though this guy earns more, a large portion of his income is already committed before the month begins. What remains is not always enough to create meaningful savings. And when savings remain minimal or inconsistent, the feeling of financial insecurity continues. This guy is not struggling in the traditional sense, but he is also not progressing financially in a visible way. He is stable, but not advancing. Comfortable, but not accumulating. Active, but not building momentum. If this guy looks closely, he will realize that his financial structure has not been designed intentionally. It has evolved naturally, shaped by habits, convenience, and emotional decisions rather than a clear plan. And that lack of intentional structure is the core reason why his situation hasn't changed much despite earning more. The solution for this guy is not to drastically cut down his lifestyle or deny himself comfort. The solution is to introduce intention into his financial behavior. This guy needs to decide ahead of time how increases in income should be handled. For example, allocating a portion of every raise towards savings or investments before allowing lifestyle upgrades. If this guy can consistently protect a portion of his income growth instead of spending it entirely, the gap between income and expenses will begin to widen. That widening gap is what creates real financial progress. It creates breathing room, reduces stress, and builds confidence over time. Right now, this guy is living in a way where his lifestyle expands immediately to match his income. Until that pattern is changed, the feeling of being broke will continue to follow him, yet regardless of how much he earns. Because in the end, this guy doesn't feel broke due to a lack of income alone. This guy feels broke because his financial system allows his expenses to grow just as fast as his earnings. And without breaking that pattern, income alone will never be enough to change how this guy feels.